Welcome to today's Research Pays Off. I'm going to hand it over to our speaker for today, Ben Worel, who is our Executive Director of the National Road Research Alliance.
All right, well, thank you, Lauren. Nice job. Welcome everyone to this Research Pays Off. And again, we wanted to step back and look a little bit kind of the basics of MnROADs and the National Road Research Alliance. So I tried to change it up a little bit, have a few extra slides, but a lot of this will be drinking through the fire hose. So get your seatbelt on and here we'll go. Next slide. And again, I really wanted to focus on people, data, and partnership opportunities, really looking at MnROAD and the National Road Research Alliance. There's a lot of great things that we're doing and a lot of great things we have to do coming up. Why was MnROAD really built? It probably wasn't to haul the lefse from Norway to Minnesota, but, really early history when you look at MnROAD, it's really looking at going back to the AASHTO road test. Again, that was early on in Ottawa, Illinois. They built a section that looks kind of eerie, like MnROAD in a way with a low-volume road. Again, you could have taken this picture probably from Dan Rauscher. Could have been out at MnROAD doing some live dynamic testing, but a lot of instrumentation went into that. MnDOT really started looking at kind of the need for local calibrations based off those AASHTO road test results. How do you do it in Minnesota? How do you do things like that? So we did kind of investigation 183, kind of looking at some of the flexible pavement designs. Sharp LTPP started national efforts in 88. That's when Gene Skoke and Dick Engberg used to take me out for ice cream cones celebrating that date. But that's when we started working with the LTPP, which really helped with kind of our local calibrations. But again, we started talking about the need for a cold weather region testing facility in the 1980s. And really, that's kind of when MnROAD's kind of the idea of MnROAD developed, the idea for development support. We had to get $25 million to pay for MnROAD in 1990. That's pretty amazing. You have people like this here in Minnesota that I'm not going to go through all the names, but they were influential in getting this funding needed to build this type of facility. When we started looking at kind of like the facility of being built, can you imagine trying to find 75, 80 million in today's dollars? It's pretty incredible that they were able to do this, in a political situation that we're all in, as DOTs. So hats off to them. Again, they did a lot of different soils work. It's hard to imagine this was MnROAD, but this is a part of MnROAD as they brought in different soils and things like that. Different sand they brought in. We had sand and clay subgrades. There's clay out there right now. That's our natural soil foundation. The instrumentation needs. This guy's got the best picture of the instrumentation. We used to have a mobile lab. But the construction was done in 1992, 1993. They're paving the loops. And on August 2nd, 1994 is when traffic was placed on MnROAD. So that's some of the early development. But again, MnROAD is owned and operated by Minnesota DOT. We do both concrete and asphalt research. We also did gravel road research at one time on the low volume road. But again, we have 30 years of customer service. Minnesota Department of Transportation has been a key player for many years. The Minnesota Local Road Research Board at cities and counties, they provided up to $500,000 per year for the last 30 years. So thank you very much to them. But, as time went on, we started doing more national things. Before we did more kind of localized Minnesota things, which is not bad. But we did kind of start going outside and for SHARP 2, NCHRP, FHWA, and different partnerships. We started later on after probably 10 or so years of activities. And, really right now we're doing a lot of pooled funds and working with industry. We did major experiments. Phase 1 was a structural experiment, like I said, looking at the AASHTO designs, Ottawa, Illinois. But basically we found that the concrete, our 7.5-inch concrete lasted as good as our 9.5-inch concrete. You you can have some savings there. Also, that we found the environment plays a bigger role in our asphalt payments than we originally thought, and that's kind of nationally. We saw that through the SHARP and developing asphalt binders for your local agency and traffic. The last few phases in 2017, a lot of work with NRRA and NCAT. And I'll be talking about NRRA quite a bit and touch upon NCAT, but in phase 4 that we just went through, again, it's NRRA and NCAT was also key players in those experiments. We've been really lucky to get construction funding for MnROAD with MnDOT. Our STIP funds have been utilized in 2018 and 2022, and we're looking to get funds later on. But really, MnROAD exists of where we had the existing eastbound lane and westbound. We built alongside that in 1990 to have the main line test sections, the I-94 or MnROAD main line. We divert the traffic there. You can see on your left-hand side, we divert traffic over to the right when we want to have traffic on our mainline test sections, and we divert the traffic back to the left when we want to get out there to do monitoring on our mainline test sections. So that's a nice setup. I'll be talking about how that's changing a little in the future. But again, traffic then diverts back to I-94 westbound as you move towards St. Cloud, going in that direction on I-94. Again, there's a low-volume road, city-county designs. That will not be there if it wasn't for the Local Road Research Board. And we provide loadings. This is our original truck, our Mack truck. All trucks should be named Mack, I think. But we have traffic loadings. We used to have 102,000 pound on the outside lane once a day, 80,000 pound 4 times a day, 4 times a week, I should say, and about 80 laps. That was the equivalent easels. We looked at that for a number of years. Now we've gone to fully axle, 5-axle semi driving on the inside lane. The outside lane is environmental for the low volume road. But we also now kind of have other facilities too as a part of research. I think now that we've gotten better technology for monitoring roads, we've done some different things on the farm loop. We've done some studies there looking at implements of husbandry, Trunk Highway 6 through NRRA, 169, CSA 8 through NCAT, 15th Street through NRRA, looking at rejuvenators, 70th Street, looking at recycled roadways, and we've done others. So we've kind of expanded a little bit upon the MnROAD facility itself. So, one thing I mentioned before, how traffic has changed over the years. It's amazing how much traffic has changed since 1990, but it's increased dramatically. We now have 3 lanes constructed to the east of MnROAD. MnROAD is 3.5 miles long. The main line sections there, the low volume road is 2.5. But we now have 3 lanes to the east and 3 lanes to the west. So now MnROAD is kind of the gap. That's what the MnDOT staff calls the facility in a lot of ways. Is the gap is being designed for 3 lanes come 2025, 2026 construction. So what does that mean for MnROAD? I think there's some opportunities there. Change is always change, but change can be good. I think in 2020, 25, 26, we'll have limited access. Automated data collection. We've talked about doing a automated distress rodeo this August of 2023. If you're interested in that, let us know. But we're looking at, different ways that we can monitor pavement performance without being on the roadway itself. And so automated distress is one way we're kind of looking at that. At drones, GoPro cameras, a lot of different things. So if you have ideas on that, let us know. Jacob Calvert from our office is leading that. But in the fall of 2026, MnROAD will turn into a kind of a 1-lane trucks only be diverted onto MnROAD. We'll have automated gates and message boards to help the driving public and get the trucks onto our test sections. But again, MnROAD main line will kind of turn into what the low volume road is, where the driving lane will be where the trucks are. the environmental lane will be the passing lane. So it'll be a little different, but I think we'll still have lots of ways to look at different materials and how they perform over time. Again, all the sensors are located in the driving lane, and the trucks are the primary ESOL contributor anyways. So I think we'll still get the same ESOLs that we'll be getting that we have now. Talking a little bit about the fine research staff we have here. That's not them. One of those turned into a marketing person, and the other one is still going to school, my daughters, when they were skating out at MnROAD many years ago. But again, the experienced staff, we have 27 road research staff under Jeff Brenner, working both at MnROAD and other areas. We also got a very active Maplewood lab group that supports MnROAD and works with MnROAD, and the material engineers support us throughout our districts in Minnesota here. Again, our MnROAD operations, I work with Emil, Joseph, Michael, and Jacob. Great staff, engineers to have on staff. Also Jeff Tabry out at the site with Craig, Dan, Jesse, Troy, and Steve. Steve kind of works both in MnROAD and Maplewood. But again, you can kind of see where the red is people that work both at the Maplewood lab and at MnROAD. The black there is the ones that work out at the MnROAD facility. So we have 10 people working with research projects. So when you work on a project, you'll probably be working with one of these people there, and they do a great job. So when we talk about data at MnROAD, you talk about performance monitoring, we've probably tried everything. That kind of shows a list of different things we do between the distress surveys, the modified LTPP survey, to dynamic load testing, to joint faulting, friction, falling weight deflectometer, noise, piezometers, pliometers, ride quality, pathways, LISWA, and all of these different types of things, surface texture. We've done a lot of different things, and these are the things that we do all the time. But we also have started doing albedo measurements, drone videos, road doctor with GPR, detailed forensics, of course, as roads fail or get replaced, we do that. Rolling weight deflectometers, rolling density mean, and many others. So if you have questions about if we've collected or not, let us know, but we have this type of data, and I'll be talking about our database in a second. The other side of the data is sensors. MnROAD is very unique because you can do things out there that you can't do on a normal roadway. Dan Rauscher and the MnROAD staff out there do a wonderful job in trying to keep track of this. Tom Burnham, Michael Vertis are working a lot in these areas too. But when you look at the data collection network we have out there, we have installed over 15,000 sensors to date. And they can be broken into like static, where we're collecting data every 15 minutes for the last 30 years on temperature, moisture, joint opening, concrete maturity, environmental strain, pressure, groundwater depth, and frost depth. Again, we also have dynamic testing. This is where you're testing the live traffic or controlled loading. So this is load type testing on. And we have earth pressure, cells, pore water pressure, asphalt, concrete strains, displacement. We've done a lot of different things. I suppose MDDs you could put in there, as we've had experience with those, but have not seen them work very well in the freeze-thaw cycles that we go through here in Minnesota. But lots of experience, lots of different types of data, static and dynamic. And again, we have information over 30 years on all these different test sections that we have. And we also have 2 weather stations and traffic data, and we're installing some new sections right now, kind of looking at different national calibration needs for different types of weigh and motion sensors. Joseph Podolsky's working with that, with these national groups that are doing that and the partnerships that are involved to bring that to fruition. So when I talk about data, I mean, this is kind of crazy, but when you look at thermocouples, this is temperatures, and we have temperatures down in the asphalt, concrete, we have them in the base, we have them in the sub-base, we have them in the subgrade. We can go down to 8 feet on some of our thermocouple data. But we've been collecting this for like 30 years. Whoops, it's not supposed to do that. And when you look at that, this is a number of rows for each year of data. It's just kind of mind-boggling. He's talking about 37 million records in 2013, things like that. And this is just one sensor, one type of sensor. So all the ones have similar information. So it's mind-boggling how much data is out there and how much it could be used and how much is probably underutilized. So if you have interest, let us know. So when you talk about getting access to the database, the MnROAD database is really kind of evolved. We do have an Oracle database here in Minnesota, but we have been utilizing kind of the InfoPave system that LTPP has developed. We use that basis or that framework to kind of develop our own basis, as you can see right there, but it's kind of under the non-LTPP side of things. But again, NRRA helped fund this, MnDOT helped fund this, and it's a good, FHW has been a great partner in working with this. But we're kind of seeing how we can bring kind of test track data into a national database to be shared. And what this system does is allows users to get kind of a MnROAD overview. You can find test sections. You don't have to know what cell it is or what section it is. You can just kind of say, I want warm mix asphalt, or I want fiber reinforced concrete, things like that. It'll tell you the test sections. You'll be able to see that available data, view the data. You can see the performance maps. You can see the performance on that. You can see maps of it. We're working on getting related reports to each of those types of efforts. And we're working on the sensors right now. So a new release will be coming out soon, but again, there's this way of getting data. There's also the good old-fashioned way of just picking up the phone and calling us. And I think sometimes that's the best way, because we can really help you get at the data. I think most common data request is, well, I want all the data. And most of the time we say to people, you don't want all the data, you want this. So again, we're very happy to help you with your data requests needs, and hopefully you utilize us. So when kind of how things normally get done, I guess, in our operations with MnROAD is really, we're always out there looking for identifying research topics. You know, what's the next thing coming up? We then kind of say, how do we get this project developed? How do we best handle this? Who do we partner with? Who do we work with to kind of look, you know, pursue that topic that's of interest for the state of Minnesota and other members that we have. We look at construction of these test sections to support it. So some research topics, they can do a lab study. Some do require test sections to help support that research. So we kind of look at, you know, at MnROAD is we rebuild test sections depending on the pavement condition, if they've failed, or if they're research value, meaning that if there's no research value left, you can take the test sections off. For example, we built a 60-year concrete. The research value is done in a couple of years. We weren't going to sit around and utilize that space for 60 more years to see how long it lasted. We got what we needed, then we could replace those test sections. Also, as we do things that we try to cut on cutting edge, the pavement condition, sometimes we don't have very long pavement condition to get our valuable research. Kind of looking at quality data to research, again, the whole thing about, you know, getting that information out to researchers is key too, is supporting that. And MnROAD staff does all that data collection when it comes to pavement performance, the sensor data, and laboratory testing. So all this has information and shared via the internet. So when you look at all the things at MnROAD, you know, we've done a couple different benefit cost ratios. We did one early on with our phase 1 efforts. We found that we got a 9-to-1 benefit cost ratio looking at spring load restrictions and how we've saved money with the process we have. Low temperature cracking is another one. In phase 2, we really found a 5-to-1 benefit cost ratio. So, I mean, when you look at, and I'll talk about a few of these projects, but we have seen that the investment in the research, we have gotten benefits beyond what we've invested. And I'll talk about a few of those here. So, one of the things we should start thinking about is phase 3 with NRRA kind of coming up with another one of these efforts as we move forward, but that's something in the future. So I think MnROAD's done a great job on pavement ME, looking at developing MnPave here in the local for Minnesota. But again, major inputs to pavement ME we've developed. That's our flexible. We also did the bonded concrete overlay ME on asphalt. Again, this is, you can see the picture there of white topping that looks like it's gone horribly wrong, but actually I think that's beautiful right there, because that shows how you can try a design, see how it performs in a small scale, and say, hey, maybe you don't put the joints right where the wheel paths are. Maybe you can't do a 3-inch concrete over asphalt. But it did show that you can get 7 million easels on it before this happens. So maybe on a low volume road that might work. So it kind of shows how MnROAD can be used at accelerated pavement testing. We've done things on seasonal load limits. We do spring restrictions here in Minnesota and winter overloads. But they have a great process with different monitoring sites around the state, and kind of models that were developed from MnROAD to help with local agencies put on spring load restrictions. We've learned a lot on low temperature cracking. Again, I mentioned before that HMA, we learned that the environment plays a huge role in its performance. I don't know if we were using asphalts that weren't for Minnesota, but now we've learned better, I guess. You can see here how the original test cells at MnROAD, the first 1994, 1995, related to linear feet of transverse cracks. We had 2 different asphalts, but we had very little cracking. You can see that we had 5-year and 10-year cells. The solid is 10-year, the 5-year. So it's basically thick and thin, if you want to think of it that way. But you can see how the 10-year and the 5-year cracked them out the same. But that was both because there's a PG 5828 in the green. But you can see that the 6422 cracked a lot more and stayed cracked. And again, this is just the linear feet of cracking. The distress changed over time and got more severe as we went on through years. But, it really kind of shows how picking the right asphalt is really beneficial. And then even a simple study we did in 1999 on the low volume road, where we used a 5828, 5834, and a 58-40. We learned from there is that the 5834 is the Cadillac oil here in Minnesota, but it is more expensive because it's polymer modified. The 5840, actually in 1999, that didn't work at all because of engine oils that added and it's separated. We got a lot of cracking. The 5828, we got our normal cracking. But, we've improved upon that. We do have 5840s now that are better quality asphalt materials from our refineries in the industry. Learned a lot about sealing, about that if you can keep the roads sealed, you get a lot less water going into the bases. The instrumentation at MnROAD showed this, where you get about a 90% reduction if you seal the edge joint or seal the cracks. We did both asphalt and concrete and different things. So sealing is important if you want to keep the water up. And we learned a lot about drainage. You can see the transverse crack there in the upper part and how that asphalt deteriorates. We get an increased ride when we don't have a base that drains. We also see in concrete where Tom Burnham worked a lot with this, where you can see there where we had a non-drainable base where the scoured concrete is there on the left concrete core. On the right concrete core had a drainable base, PSAB. And that allowed that water to flow through and not get caught in that joint and have problems as time goes on and traffic goes over that. So again, it really shows the benefit of having a drainable base. Even though it is harder to construct on a drainable base, I think there is a lot of benefits to having that drainable base there. Kind of talking about drainable bases, we did some work with geocomposite barrier drain. This is something that Bernard is way high and I kind of talked about doing since, you could have a regular base underneath a concrete road, but you could drain just the concrete joint. And we have, this actually is a spec here in Minnesota, utilizing this kind of layout as an alternative for different construction if they'd like to try this type of method on a road. We've done this on some of our ring roads around the Twin Cities. Recycling, again, I think this has been a very important project because it really shows how you can recycle a road and put a very thin surface on it and get a good performance. We designed this to last in 2007 for 5 years. It went on for 13 years, and we still had good performance on a few of these cells. So it really shows how recycling does pay off. And that kind of ties into what we've done with 70th Street, I think has been another important project that MnROAD's done, where we did thin lays on all these, but then we did SFDR, CIR, CCPR, and regular mills and fills. But really, we had a hideous road, and we've gotten a good road out of it. And it's been now since 2019 on that. We've gotten 4 years of performance out of a road that I didn't think would ever last. And that kind of shows kind of the partnerships we have with NCAT and kind of the benefits, because this one we've really utilized. They've done some stuff down south. We've done some stuff up here north, both accelerated pavement test facilities. We've worked with the cracking group experiments, looking at different types of cracking and performance tests that go along with that, with both test sections at MnROAD and at NCAT. The additive group study is something that we're in right now with NCAT. Again, looking at NCAT's really focusing on fatigue cracking and we're reflective cracking, and I'll talk about the MnROAD reflective cracking challenge. But again, there's been great coordination. New York has made that possible with their participation, and the preservation group study that we've been doing over the years. But these different types of partnerships along really help out, I think, with our customers and their needs. Kind of shows the states. The yellow ones there are ones that are kind of joining our preservation group third study, North Dakota and Idaho. We're looking for more Western states to get more involved. Again, we have industry, but again, the whole preservation pooled funds, phase 3 efforts that are going on. Again, we have a technical advisory that's meeting. We're developing kind of a plan for the future and what we're going to do. It sounds like states are going to be building test sections and performing them, providing data to us to put into the MnROAD database. But training and implementation is going to be key to this too. There's a number of customers that we need to kind of work this project towards, and number 3. But I guess when it comes down to it is we'll be kind of developing this for 2024 in January. So a couple things at NCAT, that's solicitation 1581, if you're interested in that. A couple other things, I guess, related to MnROAD. We do, and our road research group, we do have a DPS National Pooled Fund study that's going on. Kyle Hogue is a part of that. Again, there's a number of states that are participating in that, and that's been a great effort, kind of looking at how do we get away from taking so many cores, looking at density. Can we ever come up with a way to basically take that virtual million cores instead of taking a few cores here and there, to really look at both how we should pay the contractor, but also help contractors give us the best product that they can provide. I think it really shows out the areas that are weak. We then can start asking the question on why these areas are low density, and kind of get at the whole fact of how this can be topped with the kind of intelligent construction and different techniques that we have to improve our asphalt pavements. So a great effort that is being taken place there. We're also working on continuous bituminous pavement stripping assessment through non-destructive testing. EAB is working in this area and leading this effort. But again, this study is kind of looking at GPR and kind of how to find strip sections, looking at moisture and bases and things like that. So this is another pooled fund that's really kind of bringing all these different types of technologies together. With MnROAD has some equipment called the MnDOT Road Doctor, but that has 3D GPR, and falling weight deflectometer goes along with that, and so on and so forth. So again, some different technologies and different pooled fund studies that I wanted to mention. So gone for my half hour on MnROAD, so I'll be talking a little bit about the National Road Research Alliance. And I think this really came together as, MnROAD started out as being very much, we're going to do Minnesota stuff, we're going to do this and that. Later on, after 10 years or so, we started talking about, how can this facility be used as a kind of a regional, national facility to help out others also. And I think it also helped with some of the costs of the facility and things like that also. But NRRA, we used to have TERRA before this. They didn't have money to do things, but I think NRRA has the funds to do stuff. So it's TPF 5466. We're really fit. We finished our first 5-year phase 1, and now we're into our phase 2, second year of that. We have, you can see there in yellow, we have our 13 full participants. We have our fee structure is that SPNR is state planning and research dollars that are used for pooled funds. It's $150,000 if you're a state that's as big or bigger than Minnesota, SPNR wise. If you're lower, get less SPNR dollars, then it's $75,000 a year. For example, North Dakota is less SPNR dollars than us, so they pay 75, whereas Minnesota's paying 150. But this really gives us an opportunity when you start pooling this money together to do a lot of good things. Again, the Illinois Tollway is a part of this, the Local Road Research Board in 11 states. And FHWA has been also a strong contributor. We also have some areas that if it's intelligent construction team only, or the VEDA efforts at 25,000, Georgia and New York is a part of that. And the other aspect I think I really like about NRRA is it allows for associate members to get involved, associations, industry, consultants, universities. But that's $2,000 a year to be a part of that. But that's really helped us kind of pull together, when you're looking at a problem, I don't think the states have all the answers. We have to look to industry and look to what they're doing and kind of hear from them and get some ideas, because we're all trying to improve the roads in the long run. This here kind of shows some of the money side of it. If you ever look at the quarterly reports, it has all this information. But really, it's kind of shows that, phase 1, we had almost $5 million that we put towards research. Phase 2, we'll be running about the same or higher. Currently, we're at 4.34 million payments that we've gotten commitments, obligations of 7 million. So we're doing quite well in that, and that's really allowed us to do a lot of things in our efforts. Missouri has put some extra money in for the reflective cracking work they're going to be doing in Missouri. FHWA's contribution is for carbon cure, for the additives, kind of the concrete substitution efforts that were done in 2022, along with 188,000 for ICT related efforts. And MnDOT's put some extra money in for VEDA efforts also in 2022. So I guess what I'm kind of getting at is we have money now to do things, and I think that's really shown. In the next few slides, I'll kind of show why that's important. We can do stuff more than just talk about doing stuff. So we've really averaged $1 million of research. We funded over 48 projects through phase 1, and now we're up to 27 projects in phase 2. Again, these projects are both short and long-term research. The short ones are kind of like synthesis that we've done, the teams have done. Long-term research, more the traditional research. And it also helped, we've used multiple researchers around the country to do these different projects. The call for innovation, and I'll demonstrate that later, just kind of showing the projects, but in kind of an overview, we also did the call for innovation. That's the 13 in phase 2. But it was really, really fun to get 55 different proposals from different groups on different things that wanted to be done this spring. That was prioritized down by the technical teams to 22, and the executive team took those 22 and funded 13 projects. And right now, I guess the team chairs will be contacting the different groups. If you haven't heard yet, there has been emails sent out to all the teams on this, but the TAPs we need to develop those TAPs to kind of develop the final work plan and then do the MnDOT contracting so we can start on some of those. The other good news is we've had construction money from 2017 and 2022, as I mentioned before, but MnDOT also is looking at providing MnROAD $1 million a year for mainline construction funding on an annual basis. So it really kind of opens up, it's a lot of different avenues when it talks about doing different things on the main line and having the money to do it, and having NRRA help with the research side of things, but then having the construction dollars to do things is going to be kind of eye-opening, I think, into the future as we take risks on different test sections, but also have those failures and need of new test sections, as I discussed before. When you talk about NRRA, the organizational structure, again, the executive committee has 2 reps per agency. There are no associate members on the executive committee. The 5 technical teams both have the agencies and the associate members on those teams. You can see the teams over there to the right in the picture with intelligent construction, rigid pavement maintenance, geotechnical and flexible, and with the executive team kind of being in the middle. We did have an outreach committee, but that outreach is being really much done in the technical teams itself instead of having a separate group. And Lauren Dow is kind of leading a lot of that with outreach. But again, this is kind of how this is set up, and MnROAD is just kind of a tool that can be utilized, but doesn't need to be utilized for the pavement research that's going on. So when you kind of talk about some of that outreach activities, again, members have been going to the Transportation Research Board on NRRA, travel funded. We also had kind of an NRRA focus meeting, 2 per agency. We did the MTC&E. We've worked with them a couple of years. We've kind of talked about what we might want to do to have more of an NRRA focus, and the executive team has talked about that. But we've paid funding for 2 agencies travel to that meeting. Again, we're doing our research pays off seminars like we're doing today. We've had our team meetings, I think, is a great outreach. We do some housekeeping, but, the team chairs really kind of talking about how they can kind of up their game with this. And really, we wanted to kind of see during those team meetings, those monthly team meetings, that the agencies provide updates on topics or whatever they want, to kind of talk about that and say what they're doing, so others can learn from them. Also having NRRA focus project topics discussed at those meetings. So the chairs have been talking more and more about that. The chairs are also going to be a part of the executive committee meeting also to get their input into that. The other activities, again, is research and implementation support. If there's demonstrations, travel for talks, for pavement conferences, things like that, MnDOT and others, NRRA can fund some of those efforts to get to other states. And the website, I think, is great too, because it really helps show what the teams are doing. Each team has their own page that shows the members. You can join technical advisory panels on those different projects. Each project's got a page and other important documentation that the teams are working with. So lots of good information there, and I think it really helps with the outreach. And again, a great credit for Lauren and what she's been doing and keeping track of it. And so when I start talking about Lauren and keeping track of things, I'm just going to skip through the membership pretty quick here, but this is the executive committee. You can see the different people that are on it. And in red is the chair of that committee, myself in this case. You can see the flexible committee, and what you're really trying to get at here is there's a lot of people involved with this, which is great. Again, Kurt Dunn is the chair, Michael's helping out, and MnDOT. A lot of good people on this. And then when you start talking about the associate members, again, the idea here is, first of all, if you're looking at this and see something that's wrong, let Lauren know, because she's got a tough job doing that. But a great participation in these meetings and a lot of brain power behind this. When you talk about flexible team with the projects, the ones in red are the ones that were just funded. We're going to be looking at continued monitoring on I-94, the asphalt overlay sections that were done in 2017, Trunk Highway 6, rejuvenator test sections, continued monitoring on that, looking at balanced mix design. We have a couple RFPs that'll be coming out in the flexible team, but again, also Hamburg wheel track test that'll also be there. But again, a lot of great projects. Not going to go through all of them, but as we move forward, I think we're really kind of have a good portfolio of efforts that are going on. Same thing with the geotechnical team. Raul's the chair of that. Great participation with associate members. Some great projects that have been working on. Again, two of the new ones shown in red there from the call for innovation, improve moisture resistance, control pavements, water repellency. I'll be talking about that in a second about some test sections that are planned. They've kind of moved into some different drilling technology. Again, we're kind of allowing the teams to kind of go in any direction they want, in their discussions, but they felt that this was good, and the executive team followed that up by funding that. When you look at the preventative maintenance, again, Jerry Geibs helping out Joel Owering, that's the chair. Different associate members that are part of this. Different projects that were just funded, hot rubber seal coating, rumple strip durability, recycled materials and pavement preservation. Some great proposals that were funded, and we're getting those contracts put together. But again, as you know, there's lots of different groups, lots of different contractors, and lots of different people. The rigid team is no different. Tom Burnham's helping out Holly, who's the chair from Wisconsin. Great group of people. Lots of different people here. I highlighted Glenn Engstrom to give him a shout out, saying again, thank you for all the work you've done for NRRA and for my work, my job, or my efforts personally in my development. Thanks, Glenn, for all that. Projects that the rigid team, they did, they're funded an automated 3D GPR analysis for concrete pavement evaluation. You could kind of call this ICT team stuff, but the rigid teams got that one, reducing embodied carbon with mineral blended polymetric microspheres. CP Tech Center proposed on that and got that this year. So those are a couple new projects. But a lot of good projects. A lot of these projects that are complete. Again, these are all on our website if you want to take a look at those. Intelligent construction is no different. John Siekmeyer is helping out Rebecca Embacher. Great participation from all the states and Federal Highway. Again, we do have New York and Georgia as part of this also, since it's ICT only. Again, lots of people working on this. I think this is really the strength for the ICT team, because you need that technology part of it, and then you need the states to implement it and work with them in developing it. Again, a couple new projects, effective use of traffic speed defect counters and establishing NDT methods for project level evaluation. It's two new projects that was just funded. But again, it's kind of working with these new technologies to kind of help, really get the information in the Veda and kind of help states utilize new technologies to improve their roadways. So again, the main theme, I think, was we're moving into the future. I had an extra slide I was going to add. So I was going to add, here's my slide edition. But again, the whole idea of sustainability, resilience, intelligent construction, these are the things that we'll be working with EPDs and carbon credits and things like that. We have, in 2022, we built 45 new test sections, in-place recycling, preventative maintenance on some of those. We did some innovative patching and diamond grinding on some of our concrete sections. We built 16 reduced cement sections, I'll call it, with weigh in motion, as I mentioned earlier, some recycled fibers, 2 perpetual pavements. We don't typically build perpetual pavements in Minnesota, but we're kind of looking at that. We're going to be tying that to Wisconsin test sections that are going to be built this year, and MnROAD NRRA is going to help with research and with the instrumentation on that. And then a reflective cracking challenge, we built 10 sections. We had lots of great donations from Caterpillar, different fabric donations, VRAM, CIR Rejuvenator donation. MnDOT actually bought the asphalt direct from the plant to you, along with the concrete, which really helped us build these test sections and get the different research aspects that we wanted out of them. When you start talking about construction, I kind of like this slide. Again, it's a bunch of names. You can't see them all, but, MnDOT's got a great research team. NRRA with all its members that I just kind of went through. MnDOT's got support for construction that we worked with designers, lighting, research services, funding from STIP. Universities, consulting was a big part of this efforts that we've been working with. We had different materials suppliers supply the plastics, the rubbers, the fibers for the asphalt sections. But then below, you can see all the different types of materials that were donated for the use of the, I'll say, reduced cement impact on our roadways of 16 different test sections that were built there. Cargill gave us some rejuvenators, J-Band, Solmax, which Wiking Geotextile, contractors that we worked with. So I guess, stepping back to that, it's amazing how many people it took to build these, but it is a strength for the research we're doing and the test sections that were developed really to answer some of the questions that are kind of coming to all us DOTs and the industry. When you look at the reflective cracking challenge, I think I just kind of wanted to point out there too, is that, really NCAT's tied with the additive groups. So they built sections. Missouri is going to be building test sections with SPNR dollars, and Missouri put in extra for $400,000. But we built some test sections here in Minnesota, looking at having 200 feet of no sod, but then we have 200 feet of sod material that all these different mixes were placed on top of for our test sections. And kind of looking at those test sections, we built stuff with wet and dry plastics, wet and dry rubbers, control mixes where we did 4934 that we feel that if you look at the lab tests, it should rut at 2238 there, but we're not seeing that in the field. So we tried that because that's a very economical binder. But we also used our traditional 5828s and 5834s, kind of looking at other controls, along with the SuperPave 5. So we're able to do lots of different things. But again, this was brought apart. The connection with NCAT is because New York participated. And so that we were able to do a no-cost agreement with NCAT, having the funds to be utilized from New York to kind of help with the tying of these projects with NCAT and MnROAD. They did a lot with kind of getting these materials. Again, these same materials are down at NCAT as in Minnesota. Some reduced cement studies. Again, I think this was really good because we did have a lot of partnerships. To get all these materials placed was a lot of effort by the concrete plant, by all the different manufacturers supplying the different materials, how to get them into it. We do have 3 NRRA contracts related to it, but again, we're able to build these test sections through the power of partnerships. So really, how do we effectively share costs as I kind of wrap this up? I think research really needs you know, sometimes you just need the research, but sometimes you need the research and construction. MnDOT, if you do that construction out at MnROAD, we've been doing all the performance monitoring there to provide that information to us and the DOTs. We've really gotten great help from industry. CAT has been always interested in coming out and doing milling and paving for us to improve their equipment, but also give their engineers some, on experience. But also sometimes you need sensors. So all these are kind of ways that we've been pulling together research. And I think that's really the power of NRRA, is to pull all these things together. So when we talked about some of the things coming up, we have talked about the call for construction that went out. The problem is we really didn't have any construction money to do stuff. Like I talked about, that STIP money that we'll be getting annually for the main line, that'll help do mainline stuff. Low volume road, we still need to find money to do things, either from MnDOT or for other groups. We did get a lot of material contributions, which is great. CAT was always willing to mill and pave. But again, we had three cells on I-94 that needed to be done, probably about 1,400 feet, and 5 cells on the low volume road that need to be done. So when you look at that, I guess our prospects coming up this year, 5 cells on the low volume road, I think we're going to be kind of, since we didn't really have any money, we'll be looking at kind of leaning towards the Local Road Research Board on kind of low cost approaches to roadways and how we can kind of help. We're going to look back at their research that's been done over the last few years and try to come up with kind of some of those low cost approaches that will interest them. Water repellency, again, the NRRA NCHRP effort, we'll be doing that in the northwest corner of the low volume road in 150 feet. We're working with EOB and Kyle on kind of an HMA stripping calibration sections. That's through that pooled fund I mentioned earlier, kind of on a low volume road, service road. But again, the idea is to build different areas with different characteristics in those sections with concrete asphalt and kind of replicate stripping of the asphalt. And can you find it with the different equipment we have in the rolling density meter and the kind of road doctor to get that information. We did have some repairs that we needed to do also in 2023 from the 2022 construction in the WIM area. We'll be doing that in the next few weeks with some diamond grinding. So we have a nice smooth transition going into that weigh in motion section that we're developing. Again, 2024, I think this is kind of where, again, we're looking for ideas, same as we're looking for ideas for the low volume road. But again, the idea there, we might have 400 feet. We're kind of leaning towards maybe thick lift asphalt. Caterpillar, NCAT, and others are kind of looking at that. Maybe have 2 sections of that. Again, nothing's set in stone right now, but maybe 1,000 feet would be utilized for test sections for maybe some of the different cement alternatives. We had a couple of proposals on that maybe we could pull that together into test sections in 2024, utilizing the MnROAD STIP funding. And I think 2025, 24, 25, kind of flooded roadway in the stockpile area, we're kind of waiting on the NCHRP results. We did send out support letters to a number of different groups, and hopefully that group might be interested in developing some test sections out there, because I think that might be very helpful in some of the NRRA research that we've done already in that area. So again, how to get involved. Here's some of the different links to get there. Again, this will be recorded, and you can share this at any time. Again, there's the more traditional ones, and then the 2 new ones that I kind of talked about, the DPS and the continuous bituminous pavement stripping assessment is also added there. So with that, again, I think the whole idea of this was to really show how what's MnROAD, how it kind of evolved, all the different things we've done out there, and then looking also at NRRA, all the wonderful work. I think it really helped, of course, having money to do things, to get projects done. We don't just talk about research, we're actually doing research that's making a difference. But again, Jerry Rohrbach, who was in our office here at MnDOT, the materials lab, always talked about working together, you can be a bigger you can be a part of something bigger than yourself. And I think that really holds true with really how MnROAD has progressed over the years and how NRRA has kind of helped kind of work with what the states are looking for in research efforts. So with that, thank you. And I got 5 minutes for questions. I don't know if Lauren, have you seen any?
Yeah, we did just get a question, and it's, is agency membership still slowly growing, or has it become somewhat stagnant?
I think we have interest. I'd like to see South Dakota. I mean, when you start looking at, this is where I should, what Lauren was saying, just click to a thing. But there's a map there, and you know, it'd be nice to get South Dakota involved. You know, there's a certain thing that it's nice having members, it's nice having more funds, but as you get bigger, things change because things get bigger. Sometimes it's nicer to be smaller. And maybe we're at the sweet spot right now with NRRA for a number of members, keeping that consistent. But I think, you know, we can add a few members. There's nothing wrong with joining. I think I've always said to states that if they're interested, you know, join us for a year, and if you like it, join us again for the next year. You know, it's kind of an open door. It's just like with the associates. You know, some associates find that they want to be involved for a couple of years, and then they go away, and then they come back. I think it's the same thing is true with the states. You know, it's if you have the dollars. You know, I really look at NRRA as at 150,000 or 75,000. It's basically one project you're funding. Whereas if you join NRRA, you're getting all those other projects, all those other contacts, all those other things that I talked about today. That I think it's a really good value for your money. Any other, Lauren?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to mention that we did have 2 states join just last year, and then we had several states join the year before. So we are steadily getting several states each year. So I just wanted to make that comment. But then there is a question about how universities can get involved.
Yeah, the universities can get involved through the associate membership. And again, I think it really it's kind of like everyone gets to look under the hood of the car and trying to figure out what's wrong, what's working and what's not working. I think getting involved with those technical teams is kind of the way to go with universities. I guess if you want to get involved with NRRA, there's other efforts too. If you want to get involved, you know, there's lots of different ways to do it, but I think the associate membership is probably the best way to do that. And talking to any of the members, and kind of seeing how that fits into your university is helpful, or giving me a call or Lauren a call or anyone and talk to them. Anything else, Lauren?
Well, we just have had a few comments. Glenn said thank you. And then Tom Burnham made a comment about, unfortunately, recycled wind turbine fibers were not included in the new concrete test sections in 2022. And then Todd has just said that this was a great overview, so thanks.
Yep.
And then Steve Cooper has asked if we can get a copy of the presentation. We will have the recording available on YouTube, but I'm sure that Ben is happy to share this presentation if you want it. And maybe the best way to do that is just to email him directly and he can send it on to you.
I guess the other thing I could add too is if you know other states, or if your state is wanting a quicker overview than I gave today about NRRA, I'd be willing to do that and share the presentations, no problem. But just give me a call. Well, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it. Again, contact me if you have any additional questions, and hope you have a good day.
Yes, and I was going to add in the chat, I meant to do this earlier, our application page, but on our website there is a application for both agencies and associates if you're interested in joining or sending that on to somebody who is interested.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.